Mark meets Dick Powell, Chairman at D&AD and Founder and CEO at Seymour Powell. Hi Dick.
Hi.
Can you give us a very quick summary of your career to date?
I'm quite old, so it's not going to be quick, but I did a degree level course at Manchester in product design, then 3 years postgraduate at the Royal College. I set up my own agency leaving the college, which I was in for 3 years and left for various reasons. Worked independently for about 1.5 years before setting up Seymour Powell with Richard Seymour in 1984. That
was very quick. So you've never worked for anyone else?
I did actually have a job, you know, when the agency I set up on leaving the Royal College, after 3 years, we weren't agreeing about where to go, and I left, and I had a baby and a mortgage and a house that was half built, and thought, oh my God, I really do have to get a job. And so I did get a job for 9 months, and then decided really that I wasn't cut out to be employed.
Okay. If you hadn't become a designer or come through the route you have, what do you think you would have done?
I'd have been an architect. I was going to study, I mean, I did A-levels and everything as appropriate to go to university to do an architecture course. But if you think about it, designing buildings, they're just giant products in lots of ways. So they're not actually that different, but I'm pretty sure I'd have been an architect.
Who inspires you creatively?
Gosh, I get inspired by so many different things, you know, but in design terms, you know, when I was growing up through college, I was inspired by obviously people like Dieter Rams and Sotsas and all of the great names, but I've also always been inspired by mechanical issues, you know, really clever engineering, and so I was a great admirer of Brunel, for example, and some of the builders of great machines in the past, and modern technology seduces me all the time, so I get inspired by really great engineering as much as I do by great design.
And who's the most creative person you've ever worked with?
It's got to be Richard Seymour. You won't be surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
You know, Rich is a multivalent polymath. You know, he has an enormous knowledge and understanding about a wide range of things, and it's that bandwidth, I think, which is such a valuable asset to all designers. You know, I think a lot of designers think that they're just there to kind of design things, but actually you need to keep your eyes open, learning to look rather than see. And Rich is all of those things and a fantastic thinker as well. So, you know, definitely he would be that person.
What's been the most embarrassing things happened to you in your career?
Most embarrassing? Gosh. I think probably the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened was we created a new range of DIY products, and very expensive models were made and flown out to Milan, and the models went missing completely and were never recovered. You know, top secret, highly innovative stuff just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Even to this day it hasn't been...
Well, it was years ago, but no, they were never found. So showing up at a presentation without the stuff was pretty bad news.
And how did you get around that?
Can't remember.
Fine, that's quite a difficult situation to get yourself out of. What's been the most surreal moment of your career to date?
Certainly for me the most surreal moment was getting the President's Award at D&AD's awards ceremony, because it was completely unexpected, you know, and we were sat there, you know, in the usual big presentation ceremony, dinner and all the shooting match, and people on our table had been briefed to make sure we didn't go to the loo at an appropriate moment, and then suddenly up there on the screen there was someone we knew talking about us, you know, and I thought, my God, you know, why is he up there, you know, and it was such a shock because no product designers had ever got the President's Award, and it was just completely out of the blue. Very surreal.
Okay, I've got some questions for you from students on the third year product course at Staffordshire University. Is hand sketching still an essential part of the design process?
Here at Seymour Powell, yes, is the answer to that. I mean, Rich and I have always been passionate about drawing, and Richard's ability as a draftsman are absolutely astonishing. You know, he has an onboard CAD/CAM system which is just unbelievable. you know, because most of us, when we start sketching, we kind of rough things out. Rich has this ability to sort of start in the right-hand corner and finish in the left-hand corner of the page, and it's all absolutely perfect. But here at Seymour Powell, where we put a great deal of store about how things look, the ability to express form and to a great degree function and construction through a sketch is an enormously economical way of generating ideas, and people who can do that are rare as rocking horse shit, and we grab them whenever we can.
How do you think product design will change in the next few years?
Well, I think that here at Seymour Powell we have an evolving approach to these things. So, you know, the way that we operate now, as against when we started, are completely different. For a start, there's all the technologies in the form of computers that have arrived since then. But we see that 10 years ago we were looking more for what we call great all-rounders. So these were people who were good at concept, good at development, good at user interface, good at user experience, you know, good at client handling, you know, good at presentations, all of those things. They're sort of multi-capable people, but they're really, really hard to find. And we're definitely, I think, moving towards more skill-based team. So we have people who are absolute gods at alias, or absolute gods at pro engineer, or we've got super creative people who do front-end stuff. We've got people who look after clients and client, you know, project management and so on. And we've got people who do research, so much more individual skills rather than the sort of great all-rounder. So my advice to students has always been, be good at one thing, you know, aim to be the best at one thing. You know, when I was starting out in my career, I noticed that I was particularly good at drawing and rendering and stuff like that, which was a requirement at the time, and I made it my business to be really, really good at that, and therefore I was never out of work. So when I was freelancing for that period, I could always get work at agencies doing that for them, being really good at that one thing, and then of course they find out actually you can do other stuff too, you know. But my advice is you'll always get a job if you're great at one thing.
So, for example, if people are fantastic at a skill set or a package like Flash, for example, which is changing, there's a lot less need for Flash, and it looks like products like HTML5 are going to continue to change that landscape. I guess that advice doesn't necessarily always, I guess, count true for people that...
I think as a student starting out in your career, you have to be very careful, and you have to be very conscious of your abilities. And I think every designer that leaves a college wants ultimately to design things, and they go into a career with an agency or a company, and after 3 to 5 years they look around and they suddenly find that they are something else, that they have become something else. So they've become a great alias jockey, or they've become a great downstream developer, or they've drifted into research and found they're good at that particular thing. And at that moment they need to look at themselves really hard and say, do I want to do this, or do I actually want to really go back and try and be a designer? And I think that moment in the career of any young designer is really critical, because not everybody has the capability to go forward in their career as a multi-capable great all-rounder who can design things.
Do you think design will become important again in this country, and if so, how?
I think design is already important in this country. I mean, I think government particularly knows very well that innovation, for example, is absolutely critical to our manufacturing industries and our brand owners and things, and they talk a lot around that subject, and they're thinking right now in this current recession, how can we best, you know, regenerate our economy, and innovation is one of the key things, and design and innovation are inextricably linked. So I think as a nation we have a unique set of capabilities here in the UK, which are, I think, one of our greatest assets.
How can you help change the government's attitude to design education now that design and technology is no longer core for school children?
Well, we've been actively waging a campaign to rethink design and technology in schools, for example, because the courses that are currently run in GCSE and A-level are not wholly appropriate to what this nation needs, and they've been very bogged down by box ticking, certain skills, certain experiences, and so on and so forth. And there is a very, very clear case to rethink design and technology in schools, and I think that in further education more could be done to bring the courses up to date with contemporary requirements. So there's a lot that can be done. I mean, as a nation, I think our consumers are not as design savvy as they are in other nations. But I think as a group of skill bases in an incredibly creative environment, the UK is unbelievably well placed. We have, I think by our very nature, the Brits are slightly anarchic, want to change things all the time, never happy with the status quo. And we have a tremendous cross-cultural mix here in the UK, and a tremendous mix of talents and capabilities that spread right across all our creative industries.
If you could work for any agency in the world apart from Seymour Powell, who would it be?
It wouldn't be an agency, it would be Apple.
Okay.
Agency-wise, I love being here. We formed this business to do what we wanted to do, and there's no better situation than that. I mean, I just can't see myself working it.
And why Apple?
Well, Apple for all the obvious reasons. We bought our first Mac in 1984, the year they were launched, and we just immediately saw the future in that blinding moment. Until then, we'd be working with BBC Bees and things like that, use them to write reports, and it was a nightmare and all the rest of it. And then the conjoining of what we call, these days we call them meta products, software, hardware and service, into a seamless user experience is something that obviously Apple has excelled at and done a great job, and really, really understood that sometimes it's the little things that make the big difference, and they've created products that people want to buy and enjoy using.
And were you ever lucky enough to meet Steve Jobs?
Yes, I was. I met Steve Jobs a couple of times and know Johnny pretty well. I mean, I'm never going to work for Apple, let's be quite clear about that, but you asked me, what would I most like to have done or work with, and I think being in a business that literally controls the whole product experience is what would make that exciting.
Okay, let's move on to a quick fire round. One-word answers.
I'm not sure I'm capable of one-word answers.
Apple or Android?
Apple every time.
Can line or D&AD pencil?
D&AD pencil.
You have to say that. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Degree or no degree?
Degree every time.
Ant or deck?
Neither.
Retained work or pitch work?
That's difficult because we don't really do either.
Okay.
We're not retained by anybody, and nor do we do any form of free pitching.
Web or mobile?
Web.
Independent agencies or networked agencies?
That's a tricky one. Because we've been an independent agency for most of our lives, and now we're part of a small network. And both experiences have been extremely good.
Good, safe answer. And lastly, twist or stick?
I don't know what you mean.
That's fine, that's your answer. Thank you very much.